Are you in your 40s and feeling kind of lost and like you just don't like your career anymore, you don't like your marriage, and you just don't like who you are, and you're just confused? Today I'm going to talk about my experience in midlife so far.
Life is better when you can rein your brain.
So I just turned 48 recently, and I wanted to make a video talking about midlife because obviously it's something that's going to affect all of us. We all go through midlife, and they always talk about the midlife crisis. And I don't really like that term because it puts a negative connotation on something that everybody experiences, and it can be life-changing in a good way. When you're in your 40s, a lot of us are raising kids. Maybe they're almost teenagers and they're going into their own young adulthood. They're becoming the next, like young people, the youth. And here we are in our 40s, we're losing our youth. We're getting older. Hormones are changing. Women are starting to go through perimenopause, menopause. And men, although nobody really talks about it, they're going through andropause. Their testosterone's lowering. Everybody's hormones are all screwed up, and we're just going through this change. And it can be difficult. It's not easy. And then when you couple that with the general overwhelm of being on that treadmill of life and, working to get the next house, the next car, and you're just going, keeping everything going. And then you're also sometimes having to think about your parents because they're getting older and you might have to be caring for them. And there's just, with a lot of people in this age group, there's a total sense of overwhelm. And often we don't really deal with the overwhelm until something happens that really just shakes everything up. And that kind of happened to me about 5 years ago. And I'm going to talk about my experience because I would say in my 40s, this decade has been definitely so far the most personal growth I've ever experienced and the most challenging so far that I've ever experienced, but the most fulfilling. And probably about 5 years ago, I got a call from a friend of mine that was just diagnosed with a brain tumor. And as you know, when you get information like that, it throws you into a state of, you think about mortality, you think about, what does life mean? Where do I, what am I doing with my life? And just all these thoughts. And so I had that happen, and I also had issues with my spouse and his health. He had some issues that could potentially be life-threatening, and that was very overwhelming too, because when you're with a partner and they're experiencing an illness and there's that extra stress, you can assist them, you can help them, be there for them, but you have really no control over what they're doing, the decisions that they're making, and it can be very overwhelming. And those two things together really caused me to fall into a state of unsettledness. I realized that I wasn't really happy with my marriage. I wasn't really happy with my personal relationships. I wasn't happy with my relationship with my parents. I wasn't happy with my professional endeavors. I had tried a few different businesses. I hadn't succeeded at really anything, and I was just feeling really lost. And then shortly after my friend had his surgery for his brain tumor, I went and visited him, and I started kind of looking more into myself and what I wanted out of life, because I just wasn't happy. And at the same time that all this was going on, I made friends with somebody that was kind of a mirror of all the things in myself that I had neglected or had kind of buried down inside me, and I didn't even realize that I had forgotten those parts of me until I met this person. And they're an artist, they're single, they're traveling, and all of a sudden I'm like thrown into this, well, I want that, what am I doing? Who am I? I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm not happy. And it was instead of turning it into a total disaster, I mean, some people will go through that and there's just so much overwhelm and so much change that they're like, they go have an affair, they quit their job, they just leave the relationship, and that's when you've gotten into crisis mode. And I think that can be avoided. I think that we all are going to meet people that make us look within ourselves and see what we're missing. And we really need to take those moments, as well as the bad things like people getting diagnosed with cancer or just other health issues that arise more often as we reach middle age. I think that we need to turn our focus inward and really start to discuss the feelings that we have regarding it, and kind of have inner conversations with ourselves and the people around us as far as what we want out of life. I at the time decided that I was going to do some self-exploration and kind of reclaim the parts of myself that I had lost. I started doing art again. I started going on some trips. I started kind of reclaiming that, and it shook up my marriage. And there was a tumultuous time. It hasn't been easy, and I've had some really difficult discussions with my husband, and we've kind of grown through each of us growing separately. It's him dealing with health stuff and then the aftermath of it, and me reclaiming some things of myself that I had lost. And it's been really hard, but a really good growing experience, because I feel more in touch with myself than I have in probably 20 years. And I've really worked on being honest with myself and what I want out of life and relationships. I think that if you're married or in a certain job or a certain just situation for years and years, you become kind of stuck. You feel like you're going to be there forever, and you can't make any changes. But you can look inside you and say, okay, what do I want for the next 30 years of my life, and what am I struggling with, and what can I do about it? And I discovered some things that I had in my life with relationships and otherwise that were deal breakers, and I had to have some, like I said, some difficult conversations with not only spouse, but some people that were close to me, loved ones. And through that honesty, it's been easier to navigate that midlife change, because it's really like going through a second puberty, because you have all these things that are just changing so fast, and we're expected to just ride it out and go through it. And it's much better to stop and not let it be pushed down. Let things come to the surface as they arise, and talk about them and deal with them. If you're feeling like you don't like your situation, address it now, as opposed to waiting until it bubbles up so far that you just do something crazy, like just moving to another country without even thinking about what are you going to do after you get there. And so that's really an important thing, being honest with yourself through midlife and talking about it. We need to talk about it more and not ignore the changes that happen and the questions and all the uncertainty that occurs in midlife. So like I said, I just turned 48, and it's been crazy, my 40s. And if you are in your 40s or entering your 40s, I want to remind you that there are going to be times when things seem really fucked up and you're just like, what the hell is going on? But just take some time and have conversations with yourself and the people around you, and just communicate, because that is going to help you get through this phase of life. If you like this content, hit the subscribe button below. I'm going to be uploading more videos on mental health, anxiety, depression, and probably gearing it more towards midlife, because obviously that's the point of life that I'm in right now. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any experience with situations, any advice, comment below. I'd love to hear other people's experiences, what they're going through in midlife. I find it so fascinating. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.